high level question. What do you think it takes to build a system with superhuman, maybe let's say human level or superhuman level general intelligence? We've already kind of started talking about this, but what's your intuition? Like, does this thing have to have a body? Does it have to interact richly with the world? Uh, does it have to have some more human elements like self-awareness?
I think emotion. I think emotion is something which is like, it's not really attributed typically in standard machine learning. It's not something we think about. Like, there is NLP, there is vision, there is no like emotion. Emotion is never a part of all of this. And that just seems a little bit weird to me. I think the reason basically being that there is surprise and like basically emotion is like one of the reasons emotions arise is like what happens and what you expect to happen, right? There is like a mismatch between these things. And so that gives rise like I can either be surprised or I can be saddened or I can be happy and all of this. And so this basically indicates that I already have a predictive model in my head and something that I predicted or something that I thought was likely to happen. And then there was something that I observed that happened. There was a disconnect between these two things. And that basically is like maybe one of the reasons I like you have a lot of emotions.
Yeah, I think so. I talk to people a lot about them, like Lisa Feldman Barrett. I think that's an interesting concept of emotion, but I have a sense that emotion primarily in the way we think about it, which is the display of emotion, is a communication mechanism between humans. So it's a part of basically human to human interaction, an important part, but just a part. So it's like I would throw it into the full mix of communication. And to me, communication can be done with objects that don't look at all like humans.
Okay.
I've seen our ability to anthropomorphize, our ability to connect with things that look like a Roomba, our ability to connect. First of all, let's talk about other biological systems like dogs, our ability to love things that are very different than humans.
But they do display emotion, right? I mean, dogs do display emotion. So they don't have to be anthropomorphic for them to like display the kind of emotions that we don't.
Exactly. So I mean, but then the word emotion starts to lose. So then we have to be, specific. But yeah, so have rich, flavorful communication.
Communication, yeah.
Yeah, so like, yes, it's full of emotion. It's full of wit and humor and moods and all those kinds of things. Yeah,
Right,
so
exactly.
So you're talking about like flavor.
Flavor, yeah. Okay, let's call it that. Yeah. So there's content and then there is flavor, and I'm talking about the flavor part.
Do you think it needs to have a body? Do you think, like, to interact with the physical world, do you think you can understand the physical world without being able to directly interact with it?
I don't think so. Yeah. I think at some point we will need to bite the bullet and actually interact with the physical world. As much as I like working on like passive computer vision where I just like sit in my armchair and look at videos and learn, I do think that we will need to have some kind of embodiment or some kind of interaction to figure out things about the world.
What about consciousness? Do you think, how often do you think about consciousness when you think about your work? You could think of it as the more simple thing of self-awareness, of being aware that you are a perceiving, sensing, acting thing in this world, or you can think about the bigger version of that, which is consciousness, which is having it feel like something to be that entity, the subjective experience of being in this world.
So I think of self-awareness a little bit more than this, like the broader goal of it, because I think self-awareness is pretty critical for like any kind of AGI or whatever you want to call it that we'll build, because it needs to contextualize what it is and what role it's playing with respect to all the other things that exist around it. And I think that requires self-awareness. It needs to understand that it's an autonomous car, right? And what does that mean? What are its limitations? What are the things that it is supposed to do, and so on? What is its role in some way? Or, I mean, these are the kind of things that we kind of expect from it, I would say. And so that's the level of self-awareness that's, I would say, basically required, at least, if not more than that.
Yeah, I tend to, on the emotion side, believe that it has to be able to display consciousness.
Display consciousness. What do you mean by that?
Meaning, like, for us humans to connect with each other or to connect with other living entities, I think we need to feel like, in order for us to truly feel like that there's another being there, we have to believe that they're conscious. And so we won't ever connect with something that doesn't have elements of consciousness. Now, I tend to think that that's easier to achieve than it may sound, because we anthropomorphize stuff so hard. Like you have a mug that just like has wheels and like rotates every once in a while and makes a sound. I think a couple days in, especially if you're if you don't hang out with humans, you might start to believe that mug on wheels is conscious. So I think we anthropomorphize pretty effectively as human beings. But I do think that it's in the same bucket that we'll call emotion, that show that I think of consciousness as the capacity to suffer. And if you're an entity that's able to feel things in the world and to communicate that to others, I think that's a really powerful way to interact with humans. And in order to create an AGI system, I believe you should be able to richly interact with humans. Like, humans would need to want to interact with you.
Yes.
Like, it can't be like it's the self-supervised learning versus like the robot shouldn't have to pay you to interact with it. So like, it should be a natural, fun thing, and then you're going to scale up significantly how much interaction it gets.
Yeah.
It's the Alexa prize, which they were trying to get me to be a judge on their contest. I'll see if I want to do that. But their challenge is to talk to you, make the human sufficiently interested that the human keeps talking for 20 minutes.
To Alexa.
To Alexa, yeah. Wow. And right now they're not even close to that, because it just gets so boring when you're like, when the intelligence is not there, it gets very not interesting to talk to it. And so the robot needs to be interesting, and one of the ways it can be interesting is display the capacity to love, to suffer. And I would say that essentially means the capacity to display consciousness, like it is an entity much like a human being. Of course, what that really means, I don't know if that's fundamentally a robotics problem or some kind of problem that we're not yet even aware. Like, if it is truly a hard problem of consciousness, I tend to maybe optimistically think it's we can pretty effectively fake it till we make it. So we can display a lot of human-like elements for a while, and that will be sufficient to form really close connections with humans.
Yeah.